Welcome to episode 13 of our second series on the families of Appalachia and the Antebellum South. Two of the surnames are also in my family tree, so I'm extra excited about today's show. I hope you'll join me. Number 1, Trimble. Let me say at the outset that there's a lot of evidence to suggest that the Trimble family of the South are antebellum. 5 brothers, James, Moses, John, David, and Alexander Trimble, came to America in 1740. They were from County Armagh in Ireland. John married Mary Christian Moffat. They had several sons and daughters. One of them was James Trimble. He served as a captain in the American Revolution and saw action at the Battle of Point Pleasant. That's October 10th, 1774. For his efforts, he was granted lands in Kentucky. Today, the family is well established in the South. Regarding the origin of the Trimble surname, it's a variant of 2 source names, Trumbull in northwestern England and Northern Ireland, and Tremblay from France. At the end of the day, you'll need a paper trail to locate the origin of your line. But that said, however, I think Trimble folk in the Upper South originated in Northern Ireland or northwestern England. Number 2, curd. Curd was requested by a viewer, but as a disclaimer, I want to say first that I'm a descendant of John Curd, who was born in Henrico County in Virginia in 1711. Clearly, Curd is a colonial family of the South. John's father, Edward, was born in Kent, England in the late 1600s and immigrated to Virginia. I found the origin of the surname to be fascinating because Henry Harrison claims that it originated in County Kent, England, which is where Edward was born and raised. Now, what did the surname mean? Well, there are 2 possible origins and meanings, albeit English in origin. One meaning, according to Harrison, is an alteration of an old Anglo-Saxon personal name, Curda. Hey, Curda, come over here. Bring me some milk, will you? Some cheese. The Dictionary of American Family Names suggests that it was given to as a nickname to someone who traded in cheese and dairy products. At the end of the day, Curd is an English name. The meaning of the surname after several centuries is kind of mute at this point. Don't think many of them are selling cheese exclusively. Number 3, render. If you grew up on a farm before, let's say, 1960, you no doubt ate food that you raised. In addition to crops, you also raised chickens, pigs, and maybe some guineas and a milk cow. You had a spring house to keep perishable items from spoiling, or a smokehouse where you smoked and salted meats and so forth to keep them through the winter and summer months. When you cooked, you used bacon grease or lard to keep things from sticking to the pan. Well, when the Normans conquered England in 1066, they brought with them people who specialized in melting or selling lard for cooking and other situations in which a lubricant was needed. This is a process called rendering, hence the name. Among the first families composed of render folk to appear in colonial America, or early America, in the records that is Lewis Render of Virginia. He was the father of Anne Nancy Render, who was born in Culpeper, Virginia in 1753. Also had some sons too. Unlike some other Norman surnames, this one stayed small in numbers and didn't spread much throughout the Isles, so I'm confident that Render is an Anglo-Norman surname. Number 4, Coates. Short names can have multiple origins. I think I've said that a few times here on the show. This is true in the case of Coates. Except for one branch, Coates is probably of English origin, and it meant dweller by a cottage or pen. Coates settlers from England arrived in Ulster during the plantation era, that's the 17th century. So I'm confident that Coates and Ulster and England share the same origin and meaning, and hence family ties. However, I don't see evidence to suggest that the Coates in Scotland are connected to them. In Scotland, the name is a variant of I don't know how to pronounce that, Coutts. I don't even want to try it. Nonetheless, there have been Coates in the Bonnie land since the Coates brothers established thread mills near Paisley in the middle of the 1800s. I shouldn't even probably pronounce Coates because I'm probably screwing that one up. I'm going on the idea of a coat. Never even met a person named Coates in my life, folks. With respect to Appalachia the South, family genealogist C. Stanton Coates claims that the first members of the Coates family arrived in the Virginia colony between 1664 and 1668. Some soon moved on to North Carolina. In 1695, Elizabeth Coates settled on some land in Old Albemarle County in North Carolina. Stanton contends that most of the North Carolina Coates families that he discusses are descendants of William Henry Coates, born in 1819, and his wife, Martha Elizabeth Smith Penny. This, of course, does not mean that all Coates families in America descend from William Henry, because Stanton focused on his family line, as most people would do. Marmaduke Coate of South Carolina was born in 1805. So he predates William Henry and the rise of the Coates family in Scotland. One thing is for certain, Coates is an antebellum name in the South. I'm confident that your paper trail will lead you to Ulster or England. I have doubts about a Scottish origin for any Coates whose lines have been in America since colonial days. Number 5, Miracle, Merkel, or Miracle. I live in the Cumberland Gap, or tri-state region of Tennessee, Kentucky, and Virginia. The Miracle family here provides an interesting study on family ties and their breakage over time in rural communities. Now, if you're from the South or Appalachia, you will likely have heard someone say this about someone with the same name in the respective region. They're a different set. We ain't no kin to them. Around here, some people pronounce this surname as Miracle, as in a blessing from God, while others pronounce it Miracle, and as in Angela Merkel, the former Chancellor of Germany. And among the first pioneers who bore this name was Frederick Miracle Sr. Not Junior, but Senior. There was a Junior after the Senior. He was born in Northampton, Pennsylvania on April 18th, 1741. My mom was born on April 18th, 1935. Like other families, his family moved on to the backcountry of Appalachia and then down the Great Valley into the Carolinas, just like Daniel Boone and his family. In 1759, he married Anne Huntsucker in Burke County, North Carolina. Boy, you got to be very, very careful when you're saying Huntsucker. Just imagine how that could go wrong. Now, here's where it gets exciting for the Miracle folks who live near the Cumberland Gap. Frederick and his family moved to Harlan County, Kentucky, where he died in 1822. Harlan is a mere 49 miles from the Cumberland Gap. The fact that members of this wing of the family pronounce it like the Germans, I think that's where the folks around here probably originated. I say that because there is a French form of the name that started as its existence as a nickname for someone who was thought to be a miracle worker. And it would have been pronounced just like a miracle, like I've been saying all throughout this episode. At the end of the day, I think most folks named Miracle in Appalachia in the South are of German origin and probably at one time pronounced it Merkel. Number 6, Doherty. We've come to another name that was requested by a viewer that happens to appear in my own family tree. My ancestor was James A. Doherty Sr. He was born in Hightower, Georgia in 1742. That clearly marks the Doherty name as an antebellum family whose line is traceable to Ireland. Doherty is a shortened form of the Gaelic name. At the end of the day, I'm confident that Doherty originated as an Irish family name, but there are instances in which intermarriage with Cherokee people, for instance, gave rise to some folks making a claim that their Doherty ancestors were full-blooded Cherokee. Now, such is the case with members of my own family who claim that James A. Doherty Sr. was a full-blood Cherokee. If that was the case, Ancestry DNA would show that a few members of my same generation matches would show somewhere around about 1.56% native DNA. But that's not the case. Most do not show any Cherokee DNA. Still, my third great-grandmother, James's daughter, was Frances Ellen Doherty. She later married Isaac Whitfield Morris and moved to Westville, Oklahoma. She died there in 1889. Now, if you'll recall from the Trail of Tears, or the forced removal of native tribes from southeastern United States in 1838, there were mixed-race people who moved with them to Indian Territory. I contend that James was of mixed race. At the end of the day, Doherty is of an Irish origin, but your paper trail might take you to the Cherokee Nation and a Cherokee ancestor or two on your way back to Ireland. Well, folks, that's about all I have for you today. If you'd like a copy of the list of surnames that we've covered thus far on the Vantage Point, send an email to vantagepoint22@gmail.com and I will email you the list. With that said, I hope you enjoyed the discussion and will join me again here on the Vantage Point. God bless you and yours. Bye-bye.